Federal government unveils plea bargaining guidelines to speed up dispensation of criminal justice.
This has necessitated the need for standard guidelines for the implementation of plea bargaining provisions contained in our laws.
House of Representatives to pass 2024 appropriation bill on Saturday, 30th December.
Official laying and passage of the budget will be slated for Saturday, 30th December 2023.
Renewed hope agenda on healthcare, capacity building training for 120,000 frontline health workers to commence across the country.
Work together so that we achieve the targets we all set for ourselves.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we examine cyber security, threat to personal data.
Cybersecurity is the protection of internet-connected systems, such as hardware, software, and data from cyber threats. The practice is used by individuals and enterprises to protect against unauthorized access to data centers and other computerized systems.
Indeed, Ademola, a strong cybersecurity strategy can provide a good security posture against malicious attacks designed to access, alter, delete, destroy, or extort an organization's or user's systems and sensitive data. Cybersecurity is also instrumental in preventing attacks that aim to disable or disrupt a device's operations.
With an increasing number of users, devices and programs in the modern enterprise, combined with the increased deluge of data, much of which is sensitive or confidential, the importance of cybersecurity continues to grow. The growing volume and sophistication of cyber attackers and attack techniques compound the problem even further.
Now, let's make clear, Ademola, that the cybersecurity field can be broken down into several different sections, the coordination of which within the organization is crucial to the success of a cybersecurity program.
Yeah, right, Victor. Maintaining cybersecurity in a constantly evolving threat landscape is a challenge for all organizations. Traditional reactive approaches in which resources were provided towards protecting systems against the biggest known threats, while lesser known threats were undefended, is no longer a sufficient tactic. To keep up with changing security risk, a more proactive and adaptive approach is necessary.
Absolutely. Ademola, keeping up with new technologies, security trends, and threat intelligence is a challenging task. It is necessary in order to protect information and other assets from cyber threats, which take many forms, by the way. Major challenges that must be continuously addressed include evolving threats, the data deluge, cybersecurity awareness training, the workforce shortage and skills gap, and supply chain and third-party risks.
And why is cybersecurity important? What are the elements of cybersecurity and how does it work? What is the ultimate guide to cybersecurity? These are some of the issues we'll be raising with our guest as we focus on cybersecurity, threat to personal data. I am Ademola Adeoye. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria, the third episode for the week.
Third episode already?
Yeah, it is.
Well, time flies. I am Victor, so it's a pleasure to also welcome you to the program. We are reaching you from our studio here in Abuja. As usual, we will be taking highlights of the morning news in a bit. Snippets of business news will follow, and much later, newspaper review with Chukwudi Okoli-Obaja. A break beckons now, just so that Mina Daniels will take the morning news. Good morning, Mina. You look gorgeous, by the way.
Good morning to you, Victor and Ademola. Thanks for joining us on the Morning News. The federal government has laid a template for ensuring that principles of accountability, equity, integrity, and transparency are observed in the practice of plea bargaining offences in Nigeria. To this effect, the plea bargaining guidelines for federal prosecutors that will enhance standard practice is now in force.
The objective of these guidelines is to inter alia, among other instances, guide the prosecution and the defense in reaching a plea bargain agreement that is, quote, in the interest of justice, public interest, public policy, and the need to prevent abuse of legal process.
Presidential CNG initiative, a component of palliative intervention of President Bola Tinubu, is engaging stakeholders exploring boundless opportunities that exist in CNG processing and utilization. Program Director, Presidential CNG Initiative, Michael Oluwagbemi, noted that with the right information, the ongoing gas revolution can be harnessed to realize the President's dream of job creation and cheaper alternative fuels for Nigerians.
Economy is one that also allows us to do significant import substitution.
The infrastructure around creating that pool so that the gas is cheaper and it can reach the people is what the PCNGI is doing.
Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, says the 2024 appropriation bill will be passed on Saturday, December 30th, 2023. At the assumption of plenary, the Speaker mandated all standing committees of the House to submit reports of budget defense to the Committee on Appropriation.
I want to inform you that the official laying and passage of the budget will be slated for Saturday, 30th December 2023. In between these two dates, all other activities like harmonization and compilation and processing of the bill will take place.
Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Bakola Long, has officially tendered his resignation to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to enable him take a seat at the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as Senator representing Plateau South Senatorial District. In a statement by Special Advisor to the outgoing Minister on Media, Market Simon Macham, and later submitted to the President on Tuesday, 19th of December 2023, the Minister reminded President Tinubu that after exhaustive legal processes, the Court of Appeal declared him as a duly elected Senator representing Plateau South Senatorial District and directed the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to issue him the certificate of return. Lalong said the decision for his resignation was not made lightly because of the trust and confidence that President Bola Tinubu placed on him as a minister in his cabinet, having served as the Director General of the Tinubu Shetima Campaign Council, which delivered victory for the APC. Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris says the strategic role played by the media in Nigeria's democratic journey, particularly towards the victory of the current administration, will not go unnoticed. The minister gave this assurance while playing host to members of the International Press Institute.
Hope that this time Nigerian ranking in the Committee of Nations regarding press freedom, independent journalism, safety of journalists will be far higher.
The president is a Democrat and he believes in the principle of freedom of the press. And he has told me times without number that the press need not to be guarded.
A capacity building training for 120,000 frontline health workers is set to commence across the country. It's a federal government initiative to achieve the renewed hope agenda on delivery of quality health care to all citizens. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Pate, made this known while speaking at the fourth quarter 2023 review meeting of the National Traditional Leaders Committee on Primary Health Care Delivery in Abuja.
Our commitment, our resolve to work together so that we achieve the target we want to set for ourselves to help our people.
And that concludes the morning news. Ademola and Victor will continue with the program after this break.
You're welcome back. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria, coming to you on the network service of the NTA. And on business news, federal government spends 375.8 billion naira on electricity subsidy between January and September 2023 as power consumers pay off 782.6 billion naira for the commodity during the same period. Vivian Eziadiefe has this and more on business news.
The latest power subsidy figures obtained in Abuja from the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, an agency of the federal government, shows that government subsidized electricity in the first, second and third quarters of 2023. It was also gathered that power distribution companies billed electricity users a total of 1.06 trillion naira nationwide during the 9-month period, but collected 782.6 billion naira despite the blackouts in many parts of Nigeria. On subsidy payments, it was observed that in the first quarter of this year, the federal government subsidized power by 36 billion naira. This increased to 135.2 billion naira in the second quarter and jumped to 204.6 billion naira in the third quarter. Providing reasons for the subsidy in its just released third quarter of 2023 report, the NEC said it was due to the absence of cost-reflective tariffs. In another development, the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy has revealed it will adopt the proposal of the African Center for Asia plus Bangladesh Studies to achieve economic diversification, create jobs, environmental sustainability and inclusive growth, with the overall set goal of a sustainable and thriving marine and blue economy. Permanent Secretary of the Ministry disclosed this when a delegation from the African Center for Asia plus Bangladesh Studies, led by its chairman, visited the ministry. The Permanent Secretary, however, hinted that the ministry is willing to collaborate with the center. Let's take a look at trading on the floor of the exchange. With business, Vivian Eziadiefe.
All right, thank you, Vivian, for that business package. Newspaper review is next on Good Morning Nigeria.
Yeah, it's time for newspaper review, and we have a reviewer here. Chokes, good morning to you this morning.
Demola, I am fully here. Good morning to you as well. Victor.
Yes.
How good they go?
Well, small.
One day at a time. Gentlemen, I'm happy to be here.
Good to see you. Okay, Victor, you can kick off. You have two papers.
All right, let's begin with the leadership. Quite some interesting headlines here. One above the nameplate: I didn't order dress code for Niger workers. That's according to Governor Bago on page 19.
I was shocked when I read that yesterday.
That he didn't want Babariga and
yes,
from Monday to Thursday.
How would you say you will not promote your culture? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, but every day, well, I wouldn't know.
I don't know about promoting one's culture.
An office.
There is an extent to take your culture to in the office when it becomes a distraction.
No, not to wear it at all.
Okay.
No, it said Monday to Thursday. Friday is allowed.
Okay, fine.
Friday is allowed. Yeah. But now he says he didn't.
But I say
but
this.
Some people are not comfortable.
I say this to newsreaders.
Yes.
Culture is very important to reflect.
Yeah.
In your attire and all that, but please be careful that I don't start admiring your gele or whatever it's called instead of listening to your news.
You
So
you don't dress to distract your viewers.
I must give it to NTA.
You must.
Right from CNN, Brown's time, Bimbo Loyede, NTA has always dressed appropriately.
Simple,
never taking it. But I look at some other stations and they don't have that moderation. That's the point I mean.
Okay. Right.
Yes.
And the big headline here, Rivers truce, Fubara bows, ready to make more concessions, with the riders says no price too much to pay for peace in Rivers.
Actually, it was almost emotional when he said that on the mic yesterday.
Yeah, and I saw it almost like...
Let me not use this word. He was subdued. But let me say this. At the end of the day, he says no price is too much to pay for peace to reign.
You know,
that I don't agree with Pa Edwin Clark. That
because
those are the words of somebody who sounded like a weakling or something.
The peace part is one-sided.
He totally, supported it, former Rivers governor. I think at the end of the day, peace in Rivers State
is what everybody wants.
Yes. I don't know what the president told them, how he handled it. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana was saying that the president must make sure he does not engage something that is not constitutional and all that.
Even I don't know. Fashola said that he has no constitutional role
to play,
both in Ondo and Rivers.
But you don't wait for a constitutional role to put out a fire.
That is it.
That's the point.
That is the point.
I just know that the president couldn't have used any arm twisting. I call him the dialogues man, the negotiator. I think it has worked again. Sorry I cut it, Victor. I just couldn't resist it.
The last rider there, PDP insists Wike is still party member, not above sanctions.
Oh, well, he has not resigned from the PDP. He is still a member of the PDP. He glibly told us that he's a PDP member in an APC government. Remember?
Okay.
So PDP hasn't said anything out of context. But remember, Nigerian political parties that are not in government will be in perpetual opposition to. So I wouldn't be surprised if they find a few more faults than even Pa Edwin Clark.
All right. And one smaller headline there, by no means the least. Supreme Court hears Kanu governorship appeal tomorrow.
Wow.
Yes. That's an interesting one.
It will be.
I was one of those who jubilated when NNPP, seemed to have taken one. But democracy has a way of running its own life. So let's see here how it all goes. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court's verdict is final.
It is.
So that we can always have law and order in this country.
It is.
And then we can lay the matter to rest.
Exactly.
It is. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me take the Punch now. Similar headlines as we have read earlier, Rivers, this Rivers subject. But let's look at the big one here, cash crunch. NLC warns FG of mass protest. Again, banks cut withdrawals. I think I experienced this firsthand the other day from the same commercial bank, a major commercial bank.
Yes.
In one branch, 5,000 naira was the limit. In another branch nearby, 10,000 naira was the limit. Same bank.
During the Yule tide, that's not quite what to expect at this time of year, when people are going to need the little cash they have, because it's all been fought down to little cash. They can't even get
the cash
to spend. But maybe they're helping you spend it. Save it.
To save it, that's just the thing.
Because things are not easy in Nigeria.
So when somebody asks you, just say, say cash, no day.
Victor, I hope you've not said that to somebody already. That's a good one.
Yes.
And Yuletide, FRSC cautions motorists against overloading, dangerous driving. That's on page 14.
And let them not treat it as a yearly ritual. Let them listen to FRSC, because madness seems to grow two heads, usually. People, now I hear that when I went to drop something to be taken to the village, Delta Line, they told me Asaba was at 20,000 naira. And I think that close to Christmas, it could actually hit 25,000 naira. What I'm going to tell them is, don't say because transport is high, you go do a quick one with your private car. It wasn't registered for commercial purposes, okay? Don't become a transporter, okay? I'm trying to resist it myself. I thought to throw it back.
There's this one quick one I would like us to take a look at just above the nameplate of the Punch. Don't depend on Villa for feedback. Fire me advices, Tinubu. That's on page 7. I think that's important.
I didn't quite get the details of that. I saw it.
Don't depend on Villa.
But it's plain. It's plain. Don't depend on Villa for feedback. The people around you.
Okay.
But look out there.
Okay.
From other places.
Okay.
Don't just get the feedback from within the circle there.
Okay. That's a good one. Because many people are going to keep on telling the king, your majesty, blah, blah, blah. They hardly will tell you the truth. So feedback is better when it comes from neutral grounds, especially if that's what it's all about. Yeah. That's a good one.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the Blueprint newspaper. Below the nameplate, we have federal government to disburse 75 billion loans to small businesses in January. Couple traffics 1-month-old baby purchased for 30,000 naira. Jokes.
We lost it.
Yeah.
We lost it.
You sell your one baby for 30,000.
Our children are tomorrow. Aye. They are not for commercial purposes.
And some people will say that is the situation. What kind of situation is that?
I know it is.
Why would you sell your?
You see, sometimes I say that we don't have to wait for people to remove their clothes and walk naked before we begin to treat insanity. There are grades of people could be cranky, then crazy, deranged, mad, raving mad. Madness is graded, really. Some people are not completely normal. That's true.
Yeah, it is. Okay, let's move on now. Okay, I think. This is a similar one from the Fubara Wike 25 lawmakers. Orders PDB threatens Tinubu's peace accord, insist on fresh polls, molds sanctions against FCT minister, orders over anti-party. I'm ready to pay any price for peace, Rivers State Governor.
That's Fubara again.
Yes, that's Fubara. We stand by President's peace deal, the APC, and below we have cash scarcity bites harder in Lagos, Ogun and major cities, and urban renewal infrastructure top bagels 613.2 billion 2024 budget. 2024 will fully unveil gains of federal government's reforms, Tinubu says. That story is on
talking about the budget. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas, was saying yesterday that by the 30th of December, the budget that's going to be passed. And I like it. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. I asked the other time, do they still do poems in schools? Do they still do that? Poems.
Yeah.
Do they read them?
Maybe private
schools.
schools.
They do. I think they do.
Okay.
They do. Maybe private schools.
Yeah, the one I liked was the defiant Abiku. In vain your bangles cast charmed circles around my feet. I am the Abiku calling for the first and repeated time. Wole Soyinka. Trust it. J.P. Clark's was more of the appealing one.
Because for those of us who also attended public schools, we did a lot of those.
Yes.
And if it's not being done now, It shows
No,
a
I
decline.
think they still do it in the
Shows a decline.
They
universities.
should. I don't know. I hope we're not getting pompous.
No,
we were given an education that it helped us to be rounded people. Don't remind me that I wrote mathematics 3 times and failed it 4 times. That's what I'm talking about. In other areas, we excelled, you know?
Well, I wrote Yoruba and passed it once.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Kiloruko, eh?
Victor.
I like that.
All right, that's good newspaper review for this morning. We'll take a break. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Thank you, Chooks.
Thank you, guys. Always happy to be here.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Good Morning Nigeria is live on the network service of the NTA. Before we begin our conversation tagged Cybersecurity, Threat to Personal Data, let's take this background report by Joseph Osen.
The use of softwares such as malware Flipboot by cybercriminals to unleash attacks on the cyberspace has become a major threat to global economy. With the software, mischief makers attack bank accounts, impersonate and steal corporate information for exploitation. For instance, they use malware to undermine the security of devices by copying fake login screens of banks. The moment users enter their login details on the fake page, their data is harvested and transmitted to the malware operator's control point, from where the data is exploited. Reports have it that more than 2 billion individuals who use online services worldwide have had their personal data stolen or compromised. In 2022, Center for Strategic Studies revealed that cybercrime cost the global economy as much as $1 trillion United States dollars. Like in many countries across the globe, cyber attacks is said to have increased in Nigeria during COVID-19 pandemic because forced restrictions and lockdown led to job losses, with many young people whose livelihood were under threat taken to cybercrime. Nigeria's drive towards safeguarding individuals' privacy in the digital space led to the enactment of the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023, giving birth to the establishment of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission as the primary regulator for data protection in the country. It recently launched the Nigeria Data Protection Strategic Roadmap and Action Plan, outlining strategies and international collaborations for data safety. Meanwhile, the nation's security formations like the police and military have established data management centers and stepped up strategies on combating cybercrime. Several arrests have been made, but how equipped is Nigeria towards protecting its cyberspace? This and other related issues will engage guests on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Joseph, for that background report there. And seated with us in the studio to discuss cybersecurity, threat to personal data, is Dr. Uche Mbanoso, Professor of Cybersecurity and Computing Executive Director, Center for Cyberspace Studies, Nasarawa State University, KEFI. Professor, you are welcome.
Thank you for having me this morning.
All right.
Right, and also here with us is Abdul Rahman Mohammed Mande, network engineer and IT security analyst. He is also penetration tester. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Okay, let's kickstart our conversation this morning with the professor. Cybersecurity has become a major concern globally, and Nigeria is not an exception. And what worries everyone is how can one protect his personal data? What exactly is cybersecurity?
Well, cybersecurity is a buzzword used as a means of protecting ourselves, our infrastructure against the criminals in the cyberspace or digital arena. And so it means how do we contain
the vices of the criminals, the fraudsters that parade themselves within the cyber digital space, as it were. So the totality of things we do in order to remain using the digital space for productivity and efficiency, which was the original design of the internet, or as it were today, cyberspace, is to enhance the world, you know, whereby we are living in a modern society. But in that, some criminals has crept in to use it for their own personal advantage, as it is in ordinary world, in the physical world. So whatever is happening in the physical world today has also migrated to the digital world. So, but what makes it quite difficult is the fact that we are all, every nation is grappling to understand the cyberspace.
Okay. Every nation is grappling.
Every nation on the face of the earth.
Okay. So it's a major concern.
Major concern. Okay. Because it's a domain that we really don't understand, because there are so many dynamics that plays out in this particular world that is created by humans.
Okay, let me stay with you, Prof. Let me stay with you. The first reported cyber murder was said to have taken place in the US in 2002, where an underworld don was in hospital and needed to undergo a minor surgery. Now his rival got, wind of that and employed a hacker to hack into the hospital's systems and altered his prescription. Now, the nurse on duty innocently administered the wrong prescription. That patient died. Yeah. That's how far cyber the crime is. But where are we in Nigeria? What are the threats before us that we are confronted with?
No, just like you said, the threat is global. Trying to localize it is the fact that we have a lot of players, playing within the field. But what we need to understand is that the modern society is driven by data. So data is at the center of everything we talk about the cyberspace. In some of my write-ups, I always say that the citizens or the inhabitants of the digital space is data. So if you talk it digitally, it's zeros and one. And the data, a lot of people have alluded to the fact that data is the new oil. And so we are living in a data-centric society. And that data can be used in different forms. Every data that moves within the spectrum of the cyberspace somebody is interested in that data. So every data that moves, someone is interested. So what people do with that data is a different thing. And so data can be weaponized, data can be poisoned, all sorts of things can happen on that data. Data can be corrupt. So it depends on the motive or the motivation of the intruder, what he wants to achieve, the skills, the expertise, and the knowledge of how to use that data to harm. That is what is actually the differentiator. So if you bring it locally, when we understand that data is the main thing in the cyberspace, just like we have a Data Protection Act, that's a good start. But we need to know the starting point of what Data Protection Act can do and what it cannot do in the whole ecosystem of protection.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mbanaso, for your opening remarks.
Okay.
I wanted to ask Mohammed, you are more into the infrastructure and all those more technical bits. How secure is Nigeria's critical infrastructure against cyber attacks and the likes?
Okay. Well, in view of the fact that, remember in the last election, the INEC couldn't upload the presidential election because of this issue of hackers. So how secure is the critical infrastructure in Nigeria?
Right. Okay. So if we are to look at the infrastructure that we have at large in Nigeria, okay. So I have been doing a lot of threat hunting, threat research, understanding the threat posture in Nigeria, and frankly speaking, I would say we're a little bit far behind in terms of data security and cyber security.
Okay.
Reason being is I do penetration testing. Okay, I engage actively. I test systems. Okay, so I can be able to understand the level of threats, the severity of the attacks. And a lot of the systems that we have today can be backed by, like Doctor said, a lot of regulations that we can have in place. But once we start having these regulations, we need to also make sure that they are serving the right purpose. Now, if we look at some of the threats that exist today, we have threats such as malware, all the cyber threat actors, all these hackers, Yahoo, and so on. So they try to exploit some kind of weakness which exists in our systems. And these weaknesses are there. Okay? And since Nigeria is starting to become digitalized, okay, we're starting to understand our data capacity. So if we don't implement the right security at the early stages, it makes us very susceptible to compromise. So therefore, our security landscape is trying. I would just say it is trying. We still have a little bit of way to go, but I believe we will get there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Abdurrahman, for your thoughts there. Now we can now join our Lagos studio, where we have another guest, Dr. Ashogbon Oluwayomi Godwin. He's the President, CEO of Global Tech World Professional Limited, a certified internet hacker, forensic investigator, prolific writer, and legal practitioner. Welcome, Dr. Ashogbon, to Good Morning Nigeria.
And good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, good to have you join us in this conversation. If you have been listening to the conversation here, we're talking about the issue of cybersecurity threats to personal data. And we have the Prof and Abdurrahman has explained to us what cybersecurity is. But Abdurrahman raised one important issue, that is the issue of legislation, that is regulation exists. Do we actually have laws, security laws and regulation that exist to protect, the data here in Nigeria?
Thank you, sir. We do. One of them is Cyber Crime Act 2015. This Cyber Crime Act 2015 was enacted by the government of President Jonathan, the former president. And the main objective of this particular act is to ensure that cybercrime is curbed to the minimum level. Unfortunately, many Nigerians are not aware of this act. They are not aware of this act. And also, in this act, we have about 58 sections, 5 parts. This act contains offenses and penalties, which I will recommend that many Nigerians need to go and download from the internet and read this particular act. Because for Nigeria to have enacted this act, or for the government to have enacted this act, they have seen this that we're experiencing today, the menace we are seeing today coming. So government, in one way or the other, the legislative has been proactive to have enacted that particular law. But I will suggest, as an expert in the field, that this particular law needs to be reviewed, because these issues of cybersecurity is a perpetual thing. The cyber criminals are not waiting. The internet developers are not waiting. All these attacks happens every seconds. Every 39 seconds, attack take place all over the world. I quite agree with the prof there, Professor Uche,
that if the right infrastructures are not in place, it will be difficult for Nigeria to combat these very issues that we are facing in Nigeria. And I also want to say this, that even when these laws are in place, Nigeria as a citizen also need to protect themselves. I am aware of the National Cybercrime Center in Abuja that is designed to protect the traffic of hackers coming in and going out of the country. But I want to say this, if the citizens of Nigerians who are using the internet are not guided, vulnerabilities become inevitable and attacks is inevitable as well. Take for instance, if an individual who is not aware of cybercrime and the implications of cybercrime is sent a phishing link, a link with a malicious attachment, which we call malware. If this person should click that link, the malware may be designed in a way to extract the information of this person. How will government be responsible for this? So it's a dual role. As government is playing their own, the citizens of the country also need to play their own role. And also, cyber security or cyber attacks is not a national affair, it's a continental affair. It's a continental affair. This is a problem all over the world. It's a problem all over the world, which a government of a given nation cannot handle without cooperating with other nations to ensure this menace is curbed, if not totally eradicated, but to the lowest, minimum. So in summary, there is a legislative law guiding the activities of the cybercrime in Nigeria, as well as some statutory policies are also there, which we believe that if these things are enforceable, I want you to mark my word, one thing is law, another thing is enforceability of that law is also very important. So enforcing this particular law is very, very important in ensuring that these issues we are facing right now is curbed to the barest minimum. Thank you, sir. Barest minimum.
Shogbo, thank you very much for your opening salvo. But let me stay with you. You have said that government has a role in preventing cyber insecurity, so to put it, and the citizens have a role to play. Now, what does the citizen need to do? What are the conditions? You are a certified hacker, so what conditions make it easy for hackers to, attack a system?
One of the things the citizen needs to do is to ensure they are fully aware of the cybercrime in Nigeria. There are centers, like for instance, recently we organized a program called Tech 1 Million. The essence of this Tech 1 Million is to create awareness of cyber crime in Nigeria, where we have decided to train over 1 million Nigerians, starting from the regional northern region, for free, to create awareness of this menace. Because one of the ways we can curb cyber crime in Nigeria is awareness and education. Awareness and education. Let me give you an instance. A woman was called that our ATM card has expired. And she acknowledged that the ATM has expired. And they told her that they don't want her to come to the bank because of the queues and the likes of them in the bank. The woman agreed. And they asked her for them to help her to do this. She needs to provide the PAN number, which is personal authentication number, the 16 digits. She provided it without even asking who called her. She only agreed that the person that called is calling from the bank. And the hackers in question claimed to have called from the bank. Number two, the hacker go further to ask for the expiry date. She also provided the expiry date. Later, the hacker asked her to turn the ATM to call the CVV. The CVV is a credit verification value. Credit verification value, which is 3 digits at the back of the ATM. While she was calling this number, fortunately for her, her daughter came and asked her, "Mommy, what are you doing?" She said somebody called her from the bank that they want to help her to renew her ATM. And the daughter hit her back that, "What do you mean? This must be a scammer." If not that, and from my findings, the woman has over 5 million that was sent to her from her son abroad. The money would have disappeared. Many Nigerians are victims of this on a daily basis. So awareness and education on the part of all stakeholders is very, very important. It's very, very sacrosanct. We have started in Abuja last month in November. And we call it Take 1 million to train Nigeria for free, to ensure that they are not victims of this very problem. Number two, for Nigerians not to be a victim, when you see mails in your spam section, please don't click. Even if you click, delete. Because in most cases, most of these mail companies, like the likes of Google, has been designed in a way to, disable some links with malicious files. But if you go further to click on this, you can be a victim. Another way citizens can protect themselves from being a victim of hackers is that the system you are using, anytime you log into your email, please sign out and log out and sign out. Not only that, when you log out, you will see a section that is saying remove this account. Remove the account. Why? Because failure to do this, when hacker comes into your system, they can penetrate your system or hack your mail through this. Also, when you are working, the history and cookies of your browser, always delete the history and cookies of your browser. It is very, very important. Delete it. Because there are sections hackers can organize with the cookies and of the history of your browser. Take, for instance, you work on a mail, and you maybe probably the battery is having issue and the system went off. Anytime you come up again, you do not need to sign in into such mail. So if the person that signed in at your back is an hacker, they will just go to your profile and change your password. And that's all. And that's all. Another way you can protect, citizens can be protected, is that anytime you are using a password, username and password in the system, and the system asks you to save, don't save. The implication of this is that if your system is stolen, there is no need for the hacker to stress themselves to log into your mails. You'll be wondering that why am I talking about mail? Mail is one of the fastest, the popular way hackers can get details about everything about your life. Your social media, information of social media is in your mail. Your account details is in your email. Your bank detail is in your email. In fact, your life documents, your certificate, university certificate, marriage certificate, many of us now, we've scanned all these things and save all these things in our mail because we believe we can be called at any time to provide all these informations. So at our beck and call, we get this available to whoever that need them. So ACAS is very, very aware that one of the easiest way to get across to you is your email. Number 4.
Thank you, Dr. Ashokbo. Thank you very much for giving us some tips, for us to be able to safeguard our data there. We'll come back to you later in the course of the discussion. Let's come back to the studio. Prof, you've listened to Dr. Ashokbo and all the things that he has reeled out there. I want to say that I've been a victim once before, because one of these hackers called, probably hacked into one of my colleagues' mail, and called and said, I sent a text actually that, please, I'm in a fix. I need money, urgently, and it's a matter of life and death and all that. And I thought that this person has never asked me for money before, and I didn't think. I just said, okay, fine, no problem. How much? Let me just send you. So I sent some money. Then after a while, about 5 minutes later, he sent a text again and said, please, I need more. I said, but you have not even said thank you. And you're asking me to send more. I was infuriated. I was angry. I stormed out of my office and I went to the studio. Once I got to the studio, I saw this person there. I saw this, my colleague in the studio. He's an engineer. I said, but you just sent me a text. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I refuse to send you a text that my mail has been hacked. It's hacker, it's not me. I said, wow. So, you see, that is the problem, lack of awareness, which he talked about, and weak legislation. So how do we begin to create this awareness, and how do we strengthen our laws, to fight these hackers?
Thank you very much. Well, let me start from user awareness, which is very fundamental. Education and awareness is very, very fundamental in trying to combat cybercrime as it's where. More importantly, to understand the mindset of hackers, the prevalent tool they use is what we call social engineering.
Okay.
And social engineering is a psychological thing. And so they want you to act before you think.
Yeah.
So that is the basic foundation of almost all the tricks they use for cybercrime. Like the example you gave, your friend's phone was hacked, and this young man actually, who hacked the phone, is now sending you a message, sending something that will make you feel sympathize. Yes. And with that, you don't want to neglect your friend. You don't want to let your friend down.
Yeah.
And so that is what he capitalized. And with that, if we call it emotional intelligence, they use a lot of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And then you act. And so fundamentally, creating awareness is very, very important. But the issue is, how do you create the awareness? How do you educate?
Yeah.
But let me go back, before I come back to this, let me go back to the issue of act. From theoretical perspective, we have 3 elements when we talk of IT, which is technology, process, and people. Then when we talk about cybersecurity, we look at it from also 3 tripods. We look at legal framework, policy, and technology. Now, in each of these layers, you need to understand the roles they play. Now, if you look at the legal framework is reactive, it's not proactive.
Okay.
Okay? Policy is also reactive, not really proactive, so to say. Technology can be made to be proactive. So you need to understand where all these elements comes in, all these components. And when you go to the protection pillars, you need to know where the Cybercrime Act fall in. You need to know where policies fall in. Like the young man said, policy cannot rudimentally protect any individual.
Okay.
So what protects the individual is what are the technologies that are in place to ward off the attacks before they happen.
Yeah.
How is the user aware of the social vices or the social engineering arts that these guys use? Okay? So when you put all this together, you can be able to have a framework of protection whereby I normally classify cyberspace in 3 layers. I classify the national layer, the organizational layer, and what I call the personnel layer. So you need to know the roles of these layers in positioning your cybersecurity, because you using the infrastructure, you either go through a network provider or you go through your organizational infrastructure. Okay, so you are like the last mile. The organization is also working within the terrain of its own perimeter. So it's either is also providing the infrastructure or is merely using the infrastructure. Then at the national layer, which is supposed to be the overall protection capability of a nation, need roles to play. Because we are talking here that the center of everything we're talking is data.
Yep.
So how do we ensure data minimization? Because when you have a very data minimization framework, that helps you, because he talked about the fundamental thing of everything we're talking is vulnerability. Without vulnerability, there wouldn't be any attack, there wouldn't be any threat. So what a nation does is to reduce the surface of vulnerability that can be exploited by a hacker. And that has to be done at national layer and organizational layer. And then because when you have done at the national layer and organization layer, then the personnel layer is actually somehow protected.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are left with the social engineering aspect that has to do with the human psychology, tricking you to do things ordinarily you are not supposed to do. Now, so if you look at what we are doing, like he said, we are trying. We have policies, we have frameworks, we have national policies and strategy. We have all that. But where is the problem? Where are the gaps? We need to identify the gaps. Why are these things not minimizing the threat?
Okay.
So when you now look at that, the gap is one, the how we collect data. We need to understand the life cycle of data. How we collect data, how the data is processed, how the data is shared, how is the data stored. Let me give you an example. Almost every organization you want to do something in this country asks you for name.
Yes.
What do they need name for?
That is the
you want to
question.
go to the ages, you ask you for name.
Yeah, that's the
you
big
go
question.
to MTN to register, they ask you for name.
That's the big
all
question.
Sorts of data, massive uncontaminated data collection.
Yes.
So that is the fundamental, because that is the vulnerability point
That is it.
that we need to address. For instance, my name is linked to my telephone.
Yep.
So you don't need to ask me for my name, because once I have a valid registered telephone, I give you my telephone, sort my name out with a name C. And with that, you are minimizing data propagation.
Yes.
So these are the fundamental things at national level has to be addressed. So you have collection of that data, silos way of collecting data, isolated. And sometimes these data are written in a piece of paper. And you don't know what happens, how that
And how
piece
many
of paper,
times,
yes,
exchanges.
whether it's actually destroyed in a normal way or they just leave it. Let me give you an example. Each time you go to register a phone, the same provider, MTN, for instance, they still ask you for your name. Why do you need my name for the second time or third time I'm registering? That name is already in your database.
While the name is already
Yeah,
linked.
so let me tell you. So what I did in one of the occasions, I went, each time you go to register a phone, the same provider, MTN, for instance, they still ask you for your name. Why do you need my name for the second time I'm registering? That name is already in your database. Yeah, so let me tell you. So what I did in one of the occasions, I went, each time you go to register a phone, the same provider, MTN, for instance, they still ask you for your name. I pretended that as if I forgot my name. And the young lady went to the dustbin, asked me what was the last time I visited. And I told her, she went to the bin and picked up my name. I was so surprised. And I said, oh, so this name I filled, you just want it somewhere so anybody can get access to it.
Yeah.
So these are the major fundamental problems.
All right.
We need to harmonize our data in such a manner that data is not filtered away unnecessarily. Now, the same thing before you stand up. The same thing goes on. For instance, someone called me recently, called my telephone and asked me, just like what you were trying to narrate, and said that my ID card has expired. And I asked her, ID card of what? He said, thunder, fire me. Now, the question is, how did this hacker know that that telephone is linked
to you,
to my account?
Yeah.
So there is data leakages, either from the banks or from the service providers.
What of conspiracy?
So all this need to be tidied up. So if you are talking about trying to protect our digital space, we need to do the fundamental things, harmonizing our data, because every law you have put in place is reactive. They are not proactive in protecting digital space.
Dr. Mbanaso, thank you. Mbanaso, thank you very much. Let me get back to Mohammed Mande, who has patiently been waiting. Dr. Mbanaso, you listened, talked about layers and layers. But let's take, for instance, the citizen. How enlightened, in your assessment, is the average Nigerian citizen? And I ask because if you are, I think that an individual needs to be suspicious to be able to withhold. Only yesterday, someone sent me a message on one of the social media platforms, direct message, and was telling me Postdas apparently has been able to hack into a relative's account and was sending me a message, oh, I don't like to do this often, but I am very sick and I need some money. I am usually suspicious. But I said, okay, call me. He said, I don't think I have your number. I said, but you have it. I said, but you have it. He said, no, I don't think I have it. I said, okay, come to the house. This time I said, you are my neighbor, come to the house. And he said, okay. He asked for I said, okay, you come. He said, okay, I should give him my number. I said, no, I won't give you because I know you have it. We exchanged. I just led him on. I knew this was scam. I led him on for some time. When I got tired, I just blocked. I moved on. And that's because I called the relative in question and I couldn't reach him. And I don't know why. What they have done with his line, I couldn't reach him. So I just left. But I knew this is somebody who hasn't spoken with me or to me for a long time. Yeah. So to speak with me for the first time after a while and you just come and say, this person lives in Abuja, not too far away. So you need to be suspicious.
Yes.
What else needs to be done? And what is your assessment of the level of enlightenment of the average Nigerian citizen regarding cybersecurity and the likes?
Okay. All right. So thank you for this great question. So one of the things that we do is in penetration testing. So if I was to walk into this office today, hey, looking at everything that is going on, from the security guards, I will try to manipulate them using things like social engineering to get into this building. Now, when I come into this building, I can pretend to be from one of these agencies, from social investment, and if I walk in here with forms telling you that there is a loan scheme or a grant,
yeah,
a lot of us will be willing
provide
to, and then you provide your information. So that is one technique that is being used in today a lot.
Okay.
If you tell people to give you their data for loans or grants, they quickly give it to you,
including BVN and
everything. So you can go ahead and collect their bio data. So that shows you that our citizens don't really know much of the right questions to ask, such as, why do you want this information? So asking the right questions also matters. And when we take it from, when we leave an individual, we go to companies. Companies like the Prof said collect information from you. So them holding on to that information increases their liability because they're collecting too much information. And if you look at the global cybersecurity industry, they have policies in place, they have laws and regulations that govern how much data you can collect. Let's take, for example, we have GDPR, which is General Data Protection Regulation. This is a European Union law. It applies for European nations. So it governs how you collect data, that is data minimization, collecting only the minimum amount of data you need to process whatever you need to process. That is one of the criteria. Two, ensure that you have consent of whoever you're collecting information from. In Nigeria, we just go ahead and sign up and people collect your data. If you go to many offices, I've gone to many offices, like Prof said, you go into the rubbish bin. They dispose of your data. And that is why you see forms, people buying food, and then you see people
even buy groundnuts and you see your personal information.
So things like this, we need to be aware. And we need to make sure that the companies are responsible for destroying data. So like Prof said, data goes through a life cycle. You have to be able to destroy data at the end of your retention period. Okay? So there are laws, of course, that govern how long you should hold data. So by enforcing these policies on organizations, we can protect data at that level. Now, coming back to individuals, we need to, so education and awareness plays a very huge role. I am a cybersecurity trainer. I do trainings and I do offer this, I tell people what to do. Now, as people are not aware of some of the dangers of the attacks, for example, you go to an internet cafe, you just plug in your flash. You remove that flash, you plug back into your laptop. That computer is a public system. Many people access it. You don't know what they've downloaded. You don't know if the internet cafe has antivirus inside. So you're exposing yourself to more threats. For example, anytime I go to internet cafes, you find out the software is not licensed. So they use cracked software. So that is one of the problems. We cut corners. Okay? So if you use a cracked software on your system, you are introducing more vulnerabilities and more risks. Now, one of the side effects of having a cracked software is you might not be able to update your system. Because if you update, it will remove the crack. So you don't update. Now, if you don't update, and anytime you update your system, it comes along with extra new security features, but you haven't updated. Let's say you haven't updated in 1 year. All right. So so I would like to say I'm not a Yahoo boy. Okay, but from attacks that we have performed, I perform attacks on systems.
But we do have these updates coming regularly, especially on the phone.
On the phones.
On the phones,
yes.
yes.
So that is why
update within a month again.
Your phone is original.
So one of the reasons is because for every update you get a security fix.
Okay.
Or bug fix.
Bug fix. So you can have hot patches and quick fixes. So these are all ways that you go. So if you have a cracked software, you will not want to update. Why? So that you don't spoil whatever application that you're using. So if you don't update, you get compromised.
But also there's a caveat there we need to pay attention. That's just like talking about upgrading. There's what we call rogue software. Remember, about 60% or more than that of the apps you use in your mobile phones are free.
Okay, yeah.
So have you ever asked yourself why are they free?
No.
Okay, you need to ask those questions because there's no free lunch anywhere.
Yes.
Even in Sierra Leone.
So like you were saying, like Google has reported a lot of malicious applications.
Yeah.
So you might have downloaded them, you don't even know.
You don't even know.
There is a backdoor that someone probably somewhere remotely can see whatever is in your phone.
Yeah.
So I have engaged with I have engaged and exploited a lot of vulnerabilities. And people don't seem to understand what the hacker sees behind the scene.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that, your phone was hacked. You might just think, well, it is just a simple hack. But you don't know what happens behind the scene.
Yeah.
I can actually download your entire contact. I can send an SMS from your phone remotely.
Yeah.
So these are things that we need to be aware of. And one of the reasons why I do tell people this is I like to show so that you can understand what really goes on. So how I got into the cybersecurity industry was I attended a training a long time ago. Okay, and then I saw how much I was being very careless, especially on social media. Most of us will go ahead and post everything. You post your, let's say you have a Facebook account, you post your name, your email, your phone number, you post your spouse's name, your dog's name,
Pictures.
everything is there.
Pictures.
So you're giving out too much information. So as individuals, we need to limit the amount of information that we post. If you want to use your name on social media platform, don't use your name. Use a nickname, use an alias, something that will not put reference directly to you. So we need to know how to basically sensitize people on some of this.
But if you don't put your name and, you
may not be identifiable.
How would people be able to identify you and say, okay, this is, because you'll be confusing the public.
So your name can go, right? But you minimize the amount of information.
It depends on which platform.
Facebook, your
you
name,
push to the
about
public.
your family and the people around you.
For instance, I'm not in Facebook.
Okay.
Because from day one, I know the objectives of Facebook. Facebook was an MSc project. And so when I was doing my PhD, we reviewed Facebook. And what the most important thing is to look at the future. Where is this leading us to?
Okay.
So what's Facebook, TikTok, all those, most of the social media platforms are actually sponsored for massive collection of data. And so right from the onset, I'm not in the Facebook. Asked my children, never put me in the Facebook or share my pictures.
Or Instagram.
So so that is very, very important. You need to know, like Abdulrahman said, you need to know the kind of information you put on the social media.
Okay.
Because that is very, very important. And another thing you can do, like you said, is to use pseudonyms in some platforms. Okay? And then, like in the Facebook, there is public and private.
Yeah.
So when you now have like a trusted allies, you can actually, they can actually see more about you. And so I'm going to talk about few of on the social media.
Okay, Prof. Let's bring in Dr. Ashogbon into the discussion now. Dr. Ashogbon, you have, I'm sure that you have heard the discussion going on, and especially the three layers that the Prof talked about: the national layer, organization layer, and the personal layers. I want you to speak on those layers. Then again, there is something that I want to ask. Like, for instance, that I fell a victim and the money was transferred. And the moment I transferred the money and I saw the person, my colleague, I called the bank and I said, please, somebody, I've just been, I've just fallen a victim. Please, can you help me trace who the person is and all that? I probably blocked that account. But my friend at the bank said, no, it's impossible, Demola. We're going to find it difficult, but we'll try. But I don't think it will be possible because those people are way ahead of us. So how do we begin to protect ourselves?
The two speakers in the House, the two guests in the House, I really appreciate their contributions this morning, and Prof particularly, and my brother there. On the issue of the three layers that Prof raised, this is very, very important. The national layer, the organizational layer, and the personal layer. If these three layers can be nexus, can be connected to develop a solid framework, the cybercrime or cyber attack in Nigeria, if not totally eradicated, it will reduce to the barest minimum. Now, my contribution to this also is that some measures also need to be looked into when we are considering the framework of these three layers. Number one, we need to develop a national policy, both at national, at state, at the local government, at also organization and personnel. Number two, a law like the Cybercrime Act 2015 needs to be reviewed. A lot of things a lot of sections needs to be amended in that Cybercrime Act. Take, for example, there is a section in that act that said if a financial institution, that is section 37 now, should debit the account of a customer without the consent of that customer within 72 hours, the bank has the right, the law provided that the bank is under obligation to write to the customer the reason why such act is committed. And failure to do this, the financial institution is liable of an offense. And it's there, you will read it, they will pay a fine. They are also meant to pay a fine of 5 million. But oftentimes you see financial institutions, or money going out of your account without explanation. So that is one. That area needs to be reviewed. If the money withdrawn from the account is more than 100 million, is it 5 million the bank will pay as a fine? So that is one area. Another area I want to talk about is institutional capacity building. This is very, very important. Many civil servants need to be trained on this cyber crime matter. Individuals need to be trained. As I've said, we have started it in November. Take 1 million to create awareness and education for people. Another one is public-private partnership. Cybercrime is a phenomenon that cannot be eradicated by government alone. It's an intercontinental phenomenon. So the public-private partnership is very, very key at this critical time. Another one is public enlightenment, and also the International Enforcement Corporation. International Enforcement Corporation to juxtapose what the Prof has asserted on the 3 layers. I will say that we should add the international layer. We should add the international layer because cybercrime is borderless. If the crime committed, for instance, is within the country alone, it's good. But I want to tell you that most of the hacking that took place in Nigeria this year, the hackers are not in Nigeria. Okay, take for instance, a private university was hacked in April 22nd this year. And the hacker posted pornography, sex video to the website of a private school where they charge over 4 million naira per session. And from investigation, the hackers are not from Nigeria. So, while we are looking at personal layer, organizational layer, national layer, international layer needs to be added, where the country, our country, Nigeria, also, go in conjunction, in partnership with some international bodies and countries or nations to ensure this issue is abated. On the final note, from the question you asked, sir, that the bank said they will see what they can do. Today, there are a lot of vulnerability in the cyberspace of the financial institutions. Take, for instance, people from their phone now open accounts without providing the necessary information. And you see this very customer transferring and receiving money. Though I understand there are two tiers of accounts. The first tier account, the second tier, and the tier 3 account. The tier 1 account does not require BVN. From my research, this account cannot accommodate more than 50,000. And that is why in most cases, you see that the accounts don't demand for more than 30,000 naira. So as not to throw the account into a lock account or off balance. Because if money that goes into that account at once is more than 50,000, then the accounts will not be able to withdraw such money, and the account will be inactive automatically. So this area of allowing the banks to open account for many customers without doing due diligence, that area needs to be looked into. In as much as we don't review this area, people will continue to be a victim of cyber attacks. And also I want to say this, if your phone is stolen, for instance, and you put a call to financial institutions, please block my account now because my phone has been stolen. And in less than 30 minutes or 1 hour or thereabout, you see through other relatives or whatever that they've deducted money from your account or they've withdrawn the money from your account. Governments need to look into this area. We are not blaming financial institutions. As Prof has asserted, the national layers need to now meet the organizational layer, because the most concerned organization here is the financial institutions, because one of the main benefits or goal of cyber attacks is financial gain. It's number 1 on the list. When you talk about attack is equals to, mathematically, is equals to goal plus method. Goal plus method. What is the goal? The purpose for this attack. And the purpose is always financial gain. Though there are others. Identity theft is there. Disruption of services is there. But the main purpose is financial. So if the main purpose is financial, then the institution handling financial needs to come to government, or government needs to come to them, and also private sectors also need to come, and let's come together and build a robust framework so that if anybody's phone is missing, for instance, in Nigeria, in less than 1 or max 5 minutes, the line in question or phone in question is blocked to avert the further occurrence or further manipulations of these cyber attacks. These days, if you lost a phone, it's not even the issue again. When you lost a phone now, your brain will begin to calculate now, what happened to my social media? 1. What happened to my email? 2. What happened to my account? 3. These are issues. These are issues which I believe we cannot finish the discussion today. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashogbo, for your thoughts there. We'll take a break now. The conversation continues shortly. Stay with us.
All right. Nice to have you rejoin us on Good Morning Nigeria. Our guests have been talking a lot about cyber security and data protection. But let me get back to Dr. Mbanaso. Now, how is data, and this is an offshoot of the contributions of Dr. Ashogbo earlier, just before the break, how is data and privacy of individuals protected in the digital space? Is there enough? What regulations govern data handling? I ask because, for instance, you lose your phone, and as a result, you lose your money. The money goes somewhere. It is not taking cash. Why is it so difficult to apprehend the culprit and return the money to the victim? Another part of it is Even when you ask a bank, for instance, oh, block my line, and they block it, you will go through hell to unblock it, even as the owner of that account with everything staring you in the face. You will go through hell. It's as if you've committed a crime by asking them to block for you. How protected is the individual?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for this wonderful question. There's one fundamental thing Dr. Abaso said, and I want to record that.
Okay.
Which the Cyber Act policies and whatever, protection, data protection, and all that. Like he was giving an example. If a bank commits data breach, for instance, the fine is not proportionate and appropriate to the crime. And so the gap is that most of these policies and acts are not risk-based. You have to do a thorough risk assessment. The risk assessment should inform every component of your act or your policy, so that whatever you are doing will be proportionate and appropriate, because there are two key words. Are they proportionate? Are they appropriate? So that is where the gap is. And you see, like Abdulrahman said, the banks are not cooperating because they take the loopholes in the policies and the laws. Okay, so, and this is why you need a risk-based approach. When you have a risk-based approach, you'll be able to situate every item of the act or the fine you are projecting. Yeah. But remember, I said that the policies and the frameworks and all these acts are reactive. So they're not proactive. So why do we want to wait for the crime to be committed? Why can't we prevent the crime from being committed? So that is, countries are moving away from being reactive to being proactive. So how can you be proactive? That's another question. The way you can be proactive, for instance, if you go to the United States, for example, they have many centers of excellence dedicated for different aspects of the cyberspace. Okay. There are people who their job, and most of these centers of excellence are instituted in universities. Their job is to monitor special aspects of the cyberspace. For instance, there should be a center of excellence in monitoring critical infrastructure. What is happening in critical infrastructure, the kind of threats, who are those interested in critical infrastructure, because the civil servants cannot be able to do this. Is not their calling. The research and development fundamentally reside in institutions. So you need, first of all, establish centers of excellence, different types of centers of excellence, specializing in certain areas. So if you come to social engineering, for instance, as you said, I need experts in social engineering. I call an expert from Ahmad Bello University, for instance, in a center of excellence for social engineering. They're building expertise, building knowledge base for everything that has to do with social engineering. From that premise, you can train people, because your training now is not just theoretical, not hearsay, but you're also injecting a research-based, fact-based in your training. Okay. The practical aspect of it. And so all these are very, very important. You have a center of excellence in, for instance, in penetration testing, so that we understand the nuances of penetration in testing. The penetration testing is good because it only tests the systems, but it doesn't test the human aspect, the people aspect of the technology, which is the weakest point as we are talking, the social engineering, how they hack your mind first, and before they hack the system. Because that's what they do. They hack your mind first, then before they hack the system. And then when these things happen, because of the weak legislation or weak legal framework, because they are not risk-based, the victim suffers enormously. And the banks, or for instance, when we talk about the financial institutions, has no recourse. They have no repercussion. So most times, 90%, 99% time, the victim bore the brunt of the failures of institutions, the failures at the national level. So we need to begin to look at ways of being proactive rather than being reactive, waiting for the crime to be committed before now we begin to look at ways to do this. So,
remedy.
Yes, so nations are moving away from reaction to being proactive, to being active on the business. And you need to build infrastructure for this, layers of infrastructure, and it must be diversified in such a way. And then when you diversify it, you need to also have a coordination point where all these are collated. Another problem we have is that a lot of efforts are being made in Nigeria. But the problem is these efforts are in silos. There is no real handshake between law enforcement agencies who are fighting cybercrime. So each person is doing what he feels and what he likes, and working in, there is no coordination.
There's no collaboration.
No collaboration, no harmonization.
Okay.
And sometimes people want to feel it's sacred, holding what we have. Oh, we don't want to reveal it to another. But you are serving one interest.
Credits.
You are serving one interest. You are serving one government. And every agencies of the government must be trusted to perform their duties diligently. Indeed. And so nothing should be hidden among the agencies. And so they can work very well.
Okay. Prof, I have to interject you right now so that we can allow Abdurrahman to also contribute into this discussion. You have heard what Prof said, that we need to be proactive, not to be reactive, in this circumstance, or else we'll be in great danger. And they need to build the proper infrastructure. Now, how is Nigeria preparing, let me ask you, for the security challenges posed by emerging technologies such as IoT, AI, and blockchain?
All right. So thank you for this question. So IoT means Internet of Things, right? So basically, if you look at what is happening digitally, you have a lot of devices today. You have CCTVs that you can put at home. So whenever you mention an IoT device, this is a device that needs to get internet connection. So today we have a lot of smart homes. Now, let me give you a scenario. Assuming you go ahead and buy or you use this smart home, you buy one of these smart homes. You have all these smart gadgets. You have, if you leave the house, the AC will turn off. If you come in, it will turn on. The blinds will open. So, looking at these threat landscapes today, attackers try to target these IoT systems.
Okay,
why? So that they can get access to your resources. Imagine you're inside your room, your house, but someone is looking at you. You don't even know from where. So this increases a lot of, and these are done very easily. You and I can do it right now. We can try and see some people's houses. Why? Because the devices we buy, we don't vet it. You just go to the market and you buy a device. You think you're just buying a device. The vendor who created it, are you sure he is following the best security practices? Is he securing that device? Does the device have a username and password for login? So these are questions that we need to ask when it comes to IoT devices. Nowadays, of course, so many things want to join the internet also. You see a smart fridge. A fridge that needs internet access so that it can connect to the store, and when you are low on stock, it orders for you. So let me ask you a question. What if someone hacks into that system and just orders 20 crates of egg for you? Now that egg is quite expensive. Okay, so you just see you just see 20 crates of egg delivered to your door, and it has already paid because it is linked to your card. So these are dangers that we as users need to start asking. We need to start asking the right questions actually. And now you have things like AI. AI is quite a tricky subject nowadays, because in Nigeria, we are starting to develop more and more interest. And this increases the risk of more cyber attacks. If you look at, we have a technology called deep fake. Nowadays, there is a lot of fake things around the world. Fake email, fake news, fake picture. I can change a picture and be your body with my picture. So these are dangers that we need to be aware of. And the government needs to know how to, I wouldn't say the government, but we need to know how to contain these type of attacks from escalating. Because people use this technology, you can use it for the right reasons and you can use it for the wrong reasons. So if we have people that are using this technology for the wrong reasons, we need to know how can we prevent them from accessing these services. We need to make sure that they're using it for the right cause. So, and then we have an issue of blockchain today. All right, so blockchain is a technology that is also being implemented a lot in Nigeria, especially when it comes to cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a subset of blockchain. Now, cryptocurrency, the basic idea is to provide anonymity and transparency in the financial services. What you're doing is you're eliminating the financial institution from the whole equation, because your financial institution, you have a customer that goes through the financial institution, then you get access to your funds.
Okay.
So if we remove that middleman, we have more of a direct communication with our funds. So it just makes everything available in a transparent manner to everyone. But nowadays, you find out that Nigeria has a little bit of, I remember when a lot of crypto miners and cryptocurrency was blocked in Nigeria. So we have to know how we can use it in the right way.
Okay.
Okay, so not knowing how to use it in the right way can cause problems. Like, let me give you another instance. One thing that I have researched and I like about, I think I would say like it too much, when you try to purchase a drone, when you try to operate a drone service, you can't freely do it. Okay, so you would have to go through the Nigerian Air Force.
Yes.
So the Nigerian Air Force is controlling this amount of service. So if you look at it from a security point of view, this prevents attackers from buying their own drones and doing surveillance. Okay, so this is a level of control that at least we have on aerospace fields.
Okay.
Now, something that I would also like to add is we need to understand who are these threat actors. Who are the people responsible actually? Nigeria, we always say Yahoo Yahoo boys. Okay? And sometimes it goes beyond Yahoo Yahoo boys. Like Prof said, it is borderless. It can be from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to give you a story. Okay, just a short story. In 2021, I was also a victim, even though but it wasn't from me. It was from my financial institution. I was just sitting one fateful day. It was an account with, I think it was just 2,000 naira. And before I knew it, there was a transaction of 96,000. So the account was overdrawn to a minus balance. Shortly it reversed. I was like, okay, no problem. Then the next time it doubled. Ultimately, I was left with minus 346,000.
That you have to pay.
I went to the bank. And how I even got to know about this is that I went to the bank to withdraw money. And then they said, no, I don't have access to my account. My BVN has been blacklisted. So I had to go through 8 months of hell without any account. And this was a fault from the bank because I did not authorize the transaction. So there are loopholes in our institutions that need to be addressed. And in order to address these loopholes, we need to, of course, everything requires checks and balances. So at an institution level, the organization needs to do their due diligence to ensure that they are protecting customer data. They're putting systems in place to protect customer data. And how do we trust them? Okay, so they can just say, yes, we protect your data. How do you trust them? You need to audit.
Okay.
We need to constantly keep checking what they're doing.
Go to.
And we use policies like ISMS. These are international standards. Okay, these are international standards that everyone can actually use. Information security management system. I do believe that if we implement standards, then we stand a chance of protecting our infrastructure better.
All right. Thank you very much, Abdurrahman. I think this discussion is something we are unable, we wouldn't be able to exhaust it in one day. But for today, let's head to Lagos and get Dr. Asogbo's closing thoughts. And in 30 seconds, please, Dr. Asogbo.
I didn't get the clarity to the network issue. Recap the question, sir, please. Recap question, sir, please.
Said your closing remarks, because we have just a couple of minutes to end the program. So in 30 seconds, what are your closing remarks on this subject? I acknowledge that we may not be able to exhaust everything today. We may have to have another date for this conversation to continue.
Very much, sir. What I want to say in my closing remark is that the government should get ready, the organization should also get ready, the Nigerian citizens should also get ready to work together in harmony to combat this menace that is coming to Nigeria, if not even in Nigeria. So if we come together as public, private entity, I am very sure that the cybercrime in Nigeria, if not totally eradicated, but reduced to the barest minimum. Thank you.
Very much, Dr. Ashogmo, for your thoughts there. That's Dr. Ashogmo Oluwatoyin Godwin is the president, CEO of Global Tech World Professional Limited, a certified internet hacker, forensic investigator, prolific writer, and legal practitioner. Thank you very much for your thought, for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you. Now, let's come back to the studio and let's get the final parting words from Professor Uche. What would you, how would you cap it off?
Thank you very much. I think we have mostly dealt with local issues and forgetting the bigger picture of a threat. Remember, Abdurrahman talked about the threat landscape. Okay. So we're forgetting the bigger threat. And the bigger threat is the state actors who are today using the cyberspace to be able to harm other states. That should be our much more focus than the little ones within. And I give you an example. You know, we are talking about upgrade, and I was talking about what happens in the mobile design upgrade.
Prof, in 60 seconds.
60 seconds.
60 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah,
so what we are saying, what I'm trying to say is the issue of looking at the bigger picture of threat, which is the state actors. The capability of state actors in this realm is very, very important, because as it has been alluded everywhere that next generation of wars, we're already seeing it happening, will be fought in the cyberspace. So how are we prepared as a nation to be able to stand that particular if it comes on board for
I
us?
guess that question will be answered when next we convene for this particular subject. Dr. Uche Mbaraso, many thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Abdurrahman Mohammed Mande, network engineer, IT security analyst, and penetration tester. We thank you very much too for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Ademola?
Well, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition. I am Ademola Adeoye. Do have a wonderful day.
All right, and I'm Victor Azo. Thank you for your company and enjoy the rest of your day.